The sort of first thread for me was the song Mere
Mm,
Sapno Ki Rani
yeah.
from Aradhana. And that song, which means sort of translates into the Queen of My Dreams, it has just, I mean, when you can't believe you made something happen, like this song has been something I've been listening to since I was a kid. You just like, it's one of those iconic songs that's like from a time that you didn't live through or know about through personal experience. But it was such an iconic song. It's been remixed on dance floors. Like everybody knows it. It's like, of course, Mere Sapno Ki Rani. And so the song was the thing that I always thought about.
Hello and welcome to the CineManiax podcast. I'm your host, Chris Reed, editor of Film Festival Today, lead critic at Hammer and Nail, and chair of the Department of Film and Moving Image at Stevenson University. On today's show, we'll talk about our picks for the films of summer 2025. Joining me is Roxana Hadadi, TV critic for Vulture and New York Magazine, and like me, a Washington, D.C. area Film Critics Association member and a Rotten Tomatoes approved film critic. Welcome to the show, Rocky. It's great to have you.
Thank you so much. It's great to be back.
So let's start with just our general impressions of the year 2025, cinematically speaking. What do you think so far of the movies that have come out, just in general?
In general, I think that it is a solid year. And I say that because we are not yet in franchise overload, which is part of the summer that is coming. But so far, I think that it has been a fun year, a lot of movies that have had solid word of mouth and that have done surprisingly well. And I've been excited so far, I would say.
Well, the year has had some good films that I've seen at the festivals I've attended, like Sundance and Tribeca. I'm looking forward to the fall when we'll start to get the, awards contenders. I am, as you just mentioned, a little concerned about franchise overload coming very soon down the pike. But hopefully we will, between the two of us, offer people some alternative recommendations for the summer in case they too are suffering from franchise overload. So let's start with you. What are 3 films that you'd like to recommend to people that they can either watch right now or very soon?
Yes, I'm going to give you one that you can watch right now, and then a couple of more that you can mark down on your calendar for the months to come. But the one that I would say that you could watch right now is Mountainhead. It is from the Succession creator, Jesse Armstrong. It is his directorial film debut because obviously he did a lot of work on Succession. But it is very much within that mode of super talkative, super businessy, super finance, a lot of the worst people you've ever met in these characters. And I really went into it expecting to not like it. As much as I loved Succession, there was part of me that was like, do I want to watch this movie about 4 terrible men played by the likes of Steve Carell and Rami Youssef, and do I want to spend time with it? And I surprised myself a little bit by how easily it went down. The general gist is that these 4 friends, 3 of whom are billionaires, one of whom only has $500 million. So he's the loser of the group. They get together at one of these resorts that they own on a mountaintop. And they're basically trying to figure out if their tech is helping or hurting the world. You can probably guess, given our track record with tech as a society, that it's hurting the world. And so the 4 of them are sort of bickering about this and trying to figure out what to do over the course of the 100-minute movie. I think it goes down really easy. It's streaming on HBO Max. And I think if you were a Succession fan, that you'll find a lot to like in this one. The next one that I have, so both of my upcoming ones are in August. The first one is a thriller called She Rides Shotgun, and it is an adaptation of a novel by Jordan Harper, who writes a lot of crime thrillers, sort of neo-noir. And this was really his first book that sort of exploded into the mainstream. And it is about a young girl who gets abducted / saved by her father, who is a felon who has just been released from prison. He is on the run. He takes her on the run. I won't say more because it is a mystery as to what he is running from and why he is intent on saving her and sort of the dynamics of their relationship. But I really loved this book, and I thought that this was a pretty solid adaptation in terms of being pretty faithful. And it stars Taron Egerton, who I have been sort of so-so on, and I haven't always entirely bought him when he plays these sort of bruiser badass types. But I really was sold on this. I do think that the book is better. I generally always think the book is better, but I thought that this was like very solidly paced, and I thought the acting was really dynamic in the relationship between the father-daughter characters. So that comes out in August. You have some time if you want to read the book beforehand and do your own sort of compare and contrast. And my other pick,
What I just say about Taron Egerton, I did
yes,
enjoy him in the Kingsman films. And I mean, he was good in the Elton John biopic. So he's
yes.
got the acting chops and he's got the action chops. So, this is one that I could see myself looking forward to. And it's nice to hear that it's not terrible.
Yes, it's not terrible. It's certainly darker than those. Again, so many of my references at this point are like if you've seen this TV show. But he starred on this Apple TV show called Blackbird, where he is, again, playing like a character who is in prison. And that was, again, like surprisingly effective. So once more, if you've seen that show or if you've read the book, you probably should check out the film at this point. And my other pick is another compare and contrast. And this is the reboot of The Toxic Avenger, which I think for you and I, because we're of a certain age, we're like, oh yeah, we remember The Toxic Avenger, like the original 80s disgusting, gross out comedy. And this is filmmaker Macon Blair's reboot. You might know, if you are sort of like a film gossip person, that this movie has sort of been stuck in release hell for a couple of years. It played festivals a couple of years ago and it got like really solid responses. And then it just sort of languished because we're in a weird time right now for comedy, for theatrical release. And this is a very violent comedy, sort of honoring the origins of the Toxic Avenger. But the story, again, is very similar. There's a man, he is exposed to toxic chemicals, they change his body, and he becomes a vigilante. And this time it's Peter Dinklage who is playing that character. And we have some really smart updates, I thought, to be more relevant to like a 2020s audience in terms of like, what is the nature of the toxic substance that he is exposed to? Why is he exposed to it? What is his mission? I had a lot of fun with this. It is gross. I think that, you have to go into it with the mentality of like, you're going to see a bunch of heads be exploded and you have to be okay with that. But as a fan of the original, I really enjoyed what they did with this reboot. And again, that comes out in August as well.
Well, bring it on. And it might be a nice antidote to tired superhero franchises like Superman, which I'm going to see soon, but I can't quite get excited about, or Fantastic Four, both of which, may end up being better than I'm expecting. But this sounds really exciting. So I'm going to start with a film that is also coming out a little bit after its festival run, and that is The Queen of My Dreams from Fawzia Mirza. And this is a film, if you're a fan of Bollywood films, it traffics in so many of the tropes of Bollywood, especially the 1969 film Aradhana starring Shamila Tagore. And the film is based on a short film that Fawzia Mirza made a number of years ago, and also on a play, a one-woman show that she did called Me, My Mother, and Shamila, or Me, Shamila, and My Mother, something in there. Fortunately, we have an interview with Fawzia coming up after our conversation, and she talks about that one-woman show, so she'll properly put those in their right order. But it's a film that deals with issues of identity in a comedy/drama that is so much fun. And those identity are queer identity, Muslim identity, and Pakistani identity, all in one big 90-minute showcase of Fawzia Mirza's exceptional directorial skill. And I highly recommend this film. It's already out in select markets, and then it's expanding over the next couple of weeks. The Queen of My Dreams, super fun. Next up is a film that I just saw at the Tribeca Festival, and that is Oh Hi from director Sophie Brooks. And it's co-written by Brooks and actress Molly Gordon, who's the star of the film. And it's a relationship comedy. I hesitate to call it a romantic comedy, where things go awry very quickly. And let's just say that it involves actor Logan Lerman being handcuffed to a bed for much of the movie. And while I didn't love every single aspect of the film, it was highly unusual in its treatment of relationship dynamics. For 20-somethings, it was quite ribald in its sense of humor, and I recommend it for the ways in which it plays with the genre. Again, I wouldn't quite call it a rom-com. In addition to Logan Lerman and Molly Gordon, there's Geraldine Viswanathan and David Cross, among others. And I do recommend this film if you're looking for a fun, raunchy summer comedy, Oh Hi. And that is coming out in July. And also coming out in July is the one film I have not seen on my list, but I enjoyed the first film enough, and I am looking for an action adventure type superhero film that maybe isn't part of an overly fatigued franchise. And so The Old Guard 2 is a film that's coming out in July on Netflix. I think Charlize Theron is particularly great in these kinds of action films. And the cast of the first film, The Old Guard from 2020, is also returning. And I have high hopes and fingers crossed. I don't know if any of those three are films that you're looking forward to as well.
I'm really excited for Oh Hi because that cast sounds incredibly fun. Again, because I am contractually obligated to connect it to TV. Molly Gordon is on the 4th season of The Bear right now, so I feel like The Bear has a big following. If you like Molly Gordon, I think it's probably worth checking out this film. And if you saw Shiva Baby, right? I mean, that was sort of her breakout in this sort of like rom-com-y sort of space.
Yeah.
Maybe not entirely a rom-com, but playing within that. And I really enjoyed The Old Guard, the first one. I don't know why it took us 5 years to get a second one, but I'm glad it's happening.
Yeah, me too. And again, I think Charlize Theron is great in action films. I really enjoyed her in Atomic Blonde. And so I'm again, it's not the same director. It's not Gina Prince Bythewood.
Oh, okay.
But I still have high hopes, and I hope that they're not dashed. So, Rocky, I want to thank you so much for joining me to chat about these three films of yours. And I certainly, of yours, I'm looking probably the most forward to The Toxic Avenger, but the other two sound pretty cool as well.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to your thoughts on Toxic Avenger. Because I think you have a good barometer for like, is this fun gross or is it just gross? And so I'm looking forward to where you fall in that line.
I'll let you know.
Yes, great. Thank you for having me on.
All right, absolutely. Next up is an excerpt from the interview I just mentioned with director Fawzia Mirza about her feature debut, The Queen of My Dreams. It's a charming meditation on culture and identity, queer identity, Pakistani identity, and Muslim identity, and the film references many Bollywood tropes, especially from the film Aradhana from 1969, starring actress Sharmila Tagore. It has amazing visual design, colors pop, music rings out, and love blossoms over not one, but many different time periods. Let's hear what Fawzia has to say.
So as I understand it, this feature, which is your first feature, is an adaptation of both a previous short from 2012 and then also you wrote a stage play on the same story. So could you walk me through that history and development of the narrative?
Yeah, I had a short film called The Queen of My Dreams, and I made it in 2012. It world premiered at the Seattle International Film Festival and then went on to screen at, I don't know, over 40, 50 queer festivals. And I made that before I was a filmmaker. And really that was a story I was just really struggling to tell really about myself. I was struggling with this really private conundrum, I guess, whether I could be queer and Muslim and love Bollywood romance. And so I sort of dealt with it by making art and sort of took this private struggle and made it very public. And actually, I was trying to make an art piece in my dream world because, I was an actor at the time. So in my dream world, it was going to be like, I shot a bunch of this footage. It was going to be projected against a wall. There'd be a live performance piece. There'd be music. And then a friend of mine named Brian Logan, he was a filmmaker at the time. And he said, I think this is a movie. And so helped me turn this art piece that I'd shot into a 3-minute short film under the guise of like, can you tell a story in 3 minutes? We were sort of talking about that and making that. And then making it really saved my life in terms of helping me process all those big feelings I was going through. And then sharing it at film festivals helped me see that there was a community out there that I could belong to and that felt safe and felt like home and something I didn't have before. And so that really began that journey. And upon reflection, it's like, right, that you were a filmmaker then. And it's like, well, was I? I don't know. And then because I was an actor at the time and I was living in Chicago, the big dream for me was doing a one-person show. Like literally that was what I wanted. And so I was working for a company doing comedy educational theater work, a company in Chicago called Catharsis Productions. And with the help of them and this incredible dramaturg named Brian Golden, he was dramaturging for me on this project, I was able to develop this one person show called Me, My Mom, and Sharmila, which was about me, my relationship with my mother, told through a shared love of this Indian cinema heroine named Sharmila Tagore. It was a very personal story. Like the character's name was Fawzia, and we jumped around in more than 3 time periods, many cities. And that was also really healing. And, I'd say the central question in that play was, I think, how do we become who we are? And also like the idea of like your parent used to be this way, what changed? So the play was an exploration of, I don't know, just finding an answer, whether it's real or not. Like it was just an answer the play gave me. So that was super healing. And then I got to perform it in Chicago, we did a run. And then I did a run at some colleges and around the country. And then I performed it in other countries. I got to perform it in 3 cities in Pakistan, Lahore, Islamabad, and Karachi, which was also like amazing. I made another documentary about the experience. And it was around that time, like I started making more short films and some web series, and that ended up making another feature film in Chicago called Signature Move, which world premiered at South by Southwest. And like I starred in that, but I also co-wrote it. And so like I started to feel like I am a writer. I can write a screenplay. And so I wanted to explore what else this short film turned play could be. Maybe it could be a movie, and what would that look like? So that was sort of the beginning of the genesis of the screenplay, which still went through many iterations. Like at one point I had a co-writer. At one point I was working with like a consultant. At one point there was like, it was more like The Hours, the film, that film, but that sort of really began the process of it. And then I'd say as that writing started to find what the script wanted to be, I decided to direct it in 2020. And I had stopped acting. I decided to direct this movie. And that really also was a huge shift for me and life-changing moment for me in my career. So that's somewhat the arc.
I appreciate it. That's a lot of great details there. So let's talk about Sharmila. Thanks to you, I went and then watched Aradhana. Were you always going to use that particular film, Aradhana, or because I haven't seen the play, was it important just to have Sharmila Tagore? And of course, Aradhana fits the 1969 timeline because that's when it came out. So did you choose that film because of the timeline? Did you choose the year because of that film? How did that work?
Yeah, it's a great question. The sort of first thread for me was the song Mere Sapno Ki Rani from Aradhana. And that song, which means sort of translates into the Queen of My Dreams, it has just, when you can't believe you made something happen, like this song has been something I've been listening to since I was a kid. You just like, it's one of those iconic songs that's like from a time that you didn't live through or know about through personal experience. But it was such an iconic song. It's been remixed on dance floors. Like everybody knows it. It's like, of course, Mere Sapno Ki Rani. And so the song was the thing that I always thought about, like, and was even the genesis of, the short film too. Like I dreamt of someone singing that song to me. And I wanted to fall in love in that way. And so I was like, who's going to sing me? Whose queen am I going to be? This guy's going to sing this song from a Jeep, and I'm going to be reading the book in the train. Like that was the dream. And then when I started coming out as queer, I was like, okay, the woman is going to sing to me from the Jeep, and I'm going to still be in my sari reading the book on the train. And as the short film kind of helped me find my way to this, I'm the queen of my own dreams. You have to find that self-love, not Bollywood's, not my mother's. And so that song, as I really reflected on it and looked at Sharmila Tagore's character and who she was, she is a bit of a touch point for maybe my mother. She was in the 60s and in Pakistan. Sharmila Tagore was in kind of, in her prime in the 60s and in India. Their hair, the style, the fashion, the like vibes, the kind of rebellious nature. And I know rebellious can sometimes have a lot of weight to it, but it's that. It's like you are unafraid and unapologetic about who you are and the choices you're making. And that's who I saw my mother to be in photographs and stories. And that's who Sharmila Tagore seemed to be through her work. And also, she was the first Indian woman ever to appear on the cover of a magazine wearing a 2-piece bikini, also in 1969. So she just was also this very similar kind of figure. So as I reflected on all those pieces, it just kind of I started to feel this like connection to a version of our mothers, one who stayed and one who didn't, one who left, one who immigrated, one who didn't. And then I just started finding so many other threads, as one does, especially by the time it came to the feature. There's just so many points of connective tissue that are so fun to play with, as you can see in the film, in terms of family and motherhood and, love and loss.
What kinds of conversations did you have in designing the look of the film? You also have a wonderful DP, Matt Irwin, and then your production designer, Michael Pearson. Of course, there are many others on the design team.
I wanted something vibrant. That was the number one conversation that in our interviews and then all conversations thereafter, it had to be vibrant. And I wanted scenes to feel full in terms of their look. I didn't want anything generic. I wanted specificity. And so Michael Pearson is a genius. Matt Irwin can make anything and they both work together. And so one of the things we did in terms of the color and the look, Matt, our DP, created a lot. So really kind of did some color testings and places and people and skin tones and created a sort of a general look for the film that was really vibrant and rich as a starting place. So that way we never were looking at raw footage on the camera. We were always remembering this is the world we live in. And the vibrancy to me was super important. I mean, I don't know about you, but I have seen so many movies about Pakistan or places like Pakistan, and they're gritty and everything's a struggle. And look at how hard it is for the people. And I'm like, yes, it is hard. And also there's so much joy. So I wanted this movie to focus on the joy. Even when someone has died, even when there's a death, it's still a beautiful day out, and I wanted to embrace that because that is the thing that, I've been telling queer Muslim brown stories since 2012 and been very vocal and loud about the work I make, centering these characters and centering our communities. And it is remarkable how few joyous stories there are. Literally, you can count them if they're not like Disney, you know what I mean? And so it continues to be something that I am actively seeking.
Yeah, well,
and striving for.
There's a lot of joy in the film, and I love that view of swinging Karachi of the late 60s, and
that was sexy.
Club. Yeah, that was so much fun. So talk about the casting, please.
So the first person that was cast in the film was actually Hamza Haq as Hassan, and it was because I had met him on a Zoom for something related to, I think, the Eid holiday. And I thought, I really like this guy, and I knew his work, and I'd seen his work. And there's something about him that I really was drawn to. And so we had a conversation. He expressed his connection to the script, to the story, how he's been wanting to do something where he's channeling his own father. And also he has a daughter, and he wanted to make something where he hadn't gotten to do something yet with a father has a daughter, and he'd love to play that role. And it was just so clear he got it. We were casting in Canada. Our funding came from Canada. So we were really looking for our number one and number twos in Canada. I saw a bunch of really wonderful actors, and Amrit just really kind of stood out and had this real, she just kind of draws you in. And it's a challenging role and challenging roles. So I needed someone who could also speak the language and could sort of train for this. And she was really willing to do it, and also had the stamina to leave and go to Pakistan, and was excited about that. Not just getting a role and shooting it in the city you live in or the next city suburb down, but going to Pakistan and living there. And she just had the strength. It's I think being a really great actor is also, there's something athletic about it as well. One of the things, I wanted somebody South Asian, speak the language, but also I really wanted to cast somebody queer, and she shared that with me. And it was sort of, and I'm not sharing anything she hasn't talked about, but it was really, I thought, really beautiful and moving that this movie was in some ways a way for her to begin to share her queerness with the communities and with others. And then, honestly, when I was thinking about who would play the mom, I was obsessed with Nimra. I wanted her. I was I'd been thinking about all the women around the world, quite frankly, who could play this role. And she just felt like she had it. And then when I met her And she said this too. It's like we knew each other. And so I was just like, yes, please, how do we get her? And she is an icon. And then the incredible Ayana Munji, Rizwan Munji's daughter, another incredible character actor. I know Rizwan, I know her dad, and I knew his kids are actors. And so her name came up I was just like, would she be interested? And she just nailed it and was so, I don't know, almost beyond her years in the way she approached it and her love for the story that she expressed. And she had thoughts, on the character, and they were good thoughts. Like I incorporated it into the movie and I think it made it better. So, and then of course the other lead, the grandmother, Mother Gule Rana, she is an incredible actor based in Pakistan, and she's like a known soap opera, a drama star in Pakistan. And she just, you can't create the energy that she just naturally evokes. Like there's always a little bit of me that's like, oh no, I'm in trouble, And it is remarkable. I can't believe we did it,
Yeah. Well, you definitely did. It's a wonderful, wonderful film. I'm so glad I got to
Thank
see
you.
it more than once. And I wish you all good things with this release coming up. Well, thank you so much, Fawzia. Great
Thanks,
talking to you.
Christopher. Great talking to you.
The Queen of My Dreams is quite the feature debut, and I hope everyone gets to see it. You can read the transcript of the full interview at Hammer to Nail. If you're curious about any of the films we discussed on this show, be sure to check them out in theaters or via streamers, but remember, not all of them are out yet. You can read my reviews at Film Festival Today and Hammer to Nail. For the CineManiax podcast, I'm your host, Chris Reed. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you at the movies.
Thanks for listening to Dragon Podcasts. Connect with us at podbean.com/dragonpodcasts.